the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I am now joined by Volquest's own Brent Hubbs. Feels normal, Brent. We did that afternoon pod a month and a half ago, I think, and it felt odd. We're two night owls. We need to be doing night pods.
You like me in the shadows back here with poor lighting. I understand. The sunlight bothers you.
I think both of us are just we're in the shadows here. We have some Eeyore tendencies with Tennessee athletics. Oftentimes, I don't know. I think it's just these pods belong in the evening, I think.
Well, I mean, you got to be careful. You're like Gizmo. You got to be careful of bright light. Don't eat after midnight and don't get wet. Otherwise, it's going to be rough for you, right?
Oh, 100%.
That's a Gremlins reference. If you're not old,
I love
Gremlins. I don't know if you're there. You're a young.
They're adorable. They're adorable.
They are until you mess them up, and then they're
also
sloppy and angry and gross.
That's also true. I never would have thought we'd get a Gremlins.
It's easy.
You're a Gremlins guy, but see, I think I heard you talking about the movies last week on the Volquest mailbag, where it's like your movie stuff stopped around Gremlins.
It did. It like those guys were talking about movies, and I'm just like, don't ask me any details because I'm not going to tell you all of those movies that they were referencing that I've never seen because there's a lot of them. And
Brent, you were getting uncomfortable. Like I'm driving down the road on the way to the park with my dog, and I'm like, and I look at Khaleesi the dog, and I'm like, Brent's uncomfortable, and I don't know why he's so uncomfortable with this conversation, but this man wants no part of it.
No, I know nothing about recent movies, nothing at all. I just stopped being a movie guy. I'm not a big movie guy.
He's a tape guy. Brent Hubbs has got a lot of Tennessee tape to keep grinding. Like, what is the new wrinkle this week? He's just grinding. He's like, let me look at the claw fence. Let's see what's going on here. Maybe that's the wrinkle. Who knows what it is?
I don't think they're flipping their offensive lineman play to play. I don't think we're going to see that happen. So that's not a wrinkle in Josh Heupel's offense where, you're a left tackle one play and a right tackle the next play. I don't think we're going to see that. I think those.
Do we see a fake wrinkle on Monday in the scrimmage? We hear coming out like just to throw some people off the scent, some fake wrinkles.
They're so beat up right now. I don't know what they're going to do in the scrimmage. It's going to be pretty fascinating to watch or to hear what happens in terms of just A, who's out there, and B, how do you scrimmage? Typically this scrimmage is kind of a play ball scrimmage. This may be more situational because of where you are numbers wise. You're just beat up in a lot of spots. And now it's going to be some great opportunities for young players. I mean, with the news that Miles Kitselman's out, I think you're probably going to be cautious with Ethan Davis, even though he probably needs to work to establish himself. But, where's Cole Harrison? Where's those two freshmen? Buddy, you can get all the reps you want if you're Jack Van Doorslayer. Deshaun Brame's coming off a bit of an injury, so they're probably cautious there. So Van Doorslayer might set a record for tight end reps in a scrimmage. And, they got a couple places like that are, tough right now. But there are a bunch of young guys getting opportunities, which is important because I think college football, if you're gonna recruit high level classes and not go heavy with your funding in the portal, then you're going to become younger football teams. And I think you're going to see some younger football teams around the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. And I think that's just where it's going. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. I think you're going to get sloppier football because of this. Like, I think I was listening to Kirby talk to Josh Pate about it, just kind of like you have to kind of accept it. I think was just kind of like that you don't have, because there's a bunch of turnover on their roster. I mean, we talk about like Georgia's coming to town here in week 3. I mean, whole new wide receiver room. They're thin at running back. They're replacing some key guys on the offensive line. Gunnar Stockton, it'll be his first SEC start when he comes to comes to Knoxville in week 3, but it's just part of the deal. I mean, they're playing some freshmen last year. I mean, and they've started like the Malachi Starks, KJ Boldens. There have been guys who have been there, because you can't just stack these 4 and 5 stars year over year and just keep plugging and playing juniors and seniors, because every coach, like Josh Heupel included, they want to play the vets. Like they want to play older players. Everyone does. And you see it works in basketball, like Barnes and company, like veterans. It's just a better winning strategy. They're stronger, bigger, faster, been in the sport, and getting those meaningful reps matters. But on the flip side, to your point about the scrimmage part of it, in terms of like this being an opportunity for a lot of young guys, especially the tight ends now, I mean, I think it's important because the portal is about to open back up in the spring, and we've kind of wondered, is it going to be a cornerback, a running back, a receiver? offensive line? Like, where are they a defensive end, like, or interior, I guess is probably more likely, but like, where are you most thin? Where are the young guys at here in the spring? And I think that's something that hopefully can be instructive is, do we really need to add a corner to this room? Do we need to go get a Kamal Haddon this cycle? Or is Trey Poteet and or Ty Redmond ready? Can they handle QB3, CB3, CB4, and we're okay? We don't have to spend that money there. You know what I mean? Like, I do think this is kind of helpful. Like, you don't want to be decimated by injury in the spring, but you also kind of need to know where these receivers are, these young receivers, and these corners are, I think.
Yeah,
and nickel too.
Yeah, and I think probably receiver more than corner, because I think you've proven that you can play younger players in the secondary.
Yeah,
I think you got a little more confidence there. I mean, you played Boot Carter as a freshman. Ricky Gibson started a game as a freshman 2 years ago. So you've been a little more comfortable being younger back there. You haven't been very comfortable with freshman receivers and young receivers. I mean, Mike Matthews played 177 snaps, and I was on this podcast, and we talked about it on our podcast. Is this the week Mike Matthews? Is this the week? No. Is it? No. Is this going to be the week? I don't think so. So they don't. I think, Braylon Staley made an interesting comment when he met the media earlier this week about how you have to be able to adjust so much on the fly so fast. And they're asking these guys at receiver to read stuff pre-snap and post-snap in terms of some of the route combinations and what they do. And I think it takes some time because it's different than what they've done in high school. In high school, the call is you run this route. Well, now you got choice routes. So you're deciding, if this guy's playing inside coverage, I'm going to break it outside. If you're playing outside leverage, I'm going to run a slant here. I've got to be on the same page with the quarterback. We've got to figure it out. We're both making the read at this point in time. It's a little harder as opposed to taking a corner and saying, hey, man up and go play man. So I think the bigger question for me is, where do you think you are with your second year receivers, and where do you think Travis Smith is, and where do you think Radarius Jackson is, and where's Chris Brazzell in his second year? Do you feel like you need a vet? Here's the other thing. Can you get a vet receiver ready if he doesn't get here until May? It's easier to get a corner ready, So now you're sitting there going, well, okay, here's this receiver out there. Well, how big of an impact can he make? Can you get him ready in 4 months to do all the things that we're talking about? It takes almost a year to figure out. So I think you're looking at that. I do think you have to look at defensive tackle. I think Hobbs going to be a good player. I like Jackson Moy. I like Bryson Eason. I think Dominic Bailey can slide inside. I would love to see what Nathan Robinson can do, but he's got to stay healthy, and he's not been able to stay healthy. Jamal Wallace has not practiced this spring. I'm not sure where he's at physically, medically, all those things. So now all of a sudden, you don't want to play Dom Bailey inside every snap. So, okay, we can't live in rabbits the whole time and slide a strong side in to play defensive tackle the entire time we're here. Okay, we got Isaiah Campbell. Is he really going to be ready as a freshman? Is Ethan Utley really going to be ready as a freshman? Or do we need a 20 to 25 snap guy who's been in the college weight room for 2 years, who's played somewhere and can step in and be a rotational guy for us? I think that's what I think. Suddenly that position's in a little more focus than it probably was in January, just because of Wallace and the fact that Nathan Robinson's not been able to stay, healthy to this point. So exactly where are you body-wise? You want more than 3, and they're just kind of there right now. I mean, who's 4, who's 5? Maybe you don't go 5 deep, but who's 4? Because you really need 2 deep at that position. And I think that's kind of coming into focus here the back half of spring.
Yeah, I mean, you lost 3 of your top 4 snap getters at that spot: Amari, Omar, and Elijah. I mean, Elijah's the one you wanted back, right? Because that would have exactly what you're talking about, the 20 to 25 snaps. We've got David Hobbs, who's ready to step into a bigger role. Jackson Moy can step into a bigger role. Bryson Eason's gotten better and better each and every year. You're we don't need you just need someone who can gobble up a little bit of those snaps before the Utleys and the Campbells are ready for bigger load. I'm surprised. I guess they have a lot of young talent there, and Would it surprise you though if Campbell or one of those freshmen did end up? Because how much did David Hobbs play? He played a little bit as a freshman,
Yeah,
right?
he played more and more. In the ideal world, here's what you wanted, and here's what you thought you had, and why you thought you were going to be okay. You were going to go Eason, you were going to go Moy, you were going to go Hobbs, you were going to go Nathan Robinson / Jamal Wallace in there as 4 and 5, and then I got Campbell who can come in and be my 5th, 6th guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if Wallace is, because you never really knew what you had in Wallace or what you don't have. Even if it's just Nathan Robinson, you have 4. Then all of a sudden your 5th guy is a freshman. You're okay with that.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with that. Now the question you have is, are you okay with your 4th guy being a freshman? Potentially, because you don't know if Robinson can stay healthy and you don't know where Jamal Wallace is. That's why defensive tackle has taken a different. You're fine with a freshman being your 5th guy. You're totally good with that because you want to work him in. That's what happened with, you go back to Hobbs' freshman year and you look who they had, and it was Omari, and it was Bryson, and it was Omar Norman Lott, and it was Elijah Simmons. And all of a sudden, hey, Davin Hobbs, you're our 5th guy. You get 5 snaps. As the season goes along, we might take you up to 10, or something to that effect, that type of deal, which is what you want to do. Right now, you may feel like, okay, in the first quarter rotation, now here we're going to count on Isaiah Campbell. Do you think he's going to be ready to be in the first quarter rotation against Syracuse? If not, then you need to be in the portal probably finding a guy, unless you're just going to roll the dice and say Nathan Robinson, who I think is really I think he's got a lot of talent. He's just not been able to stay healthy. And so are you going to roll the dice that he can stay healthy?
I mean, maybe you're rolling the dice of the combo of like Nathan Robinson staying healthy and or Isaiah Campbell being a 4 or 5-star guy ready to step in for those 20-25 snaps.
Position to step in and play 25 snaps.
Yeah.
That's a really hard position to ask somebody to do that. I'm not saying it can't happen.
But there are a lot worse options than Isaiah Campbell being.
There are. Which is a credit to what you put together in your recruiting class, which is why you're not sitting here going, we're going to take any walking, breathing, snorting defensive tackle available in the portal. If it's the right guy, then you go take somebody. I think you look at taking a defensive tackle in the portal every year because I don't think it's bad. I mean, it's a hard position to play. It's a lot of physicality.
It's not fun.
I don't think there's anything wrong with always adding a veteran if you can add a veteran. I mean, Jackson Moy was a luxury a year ago. You didn't really need him, but it was nice to have him. Now you really like to have him, but it was nice to have him in the rotation.
Wasn't the plan to kind of redshirt him, like to not even he was just too good.
And he was good enough to say, hey, he can be 4 or 5 for us. We're good. Like, let's go play with that guy.
Well, I also think you brought up the Don Bailey part of it, and this can kind of transition to another part of what I was looking at here, is with James Pierce not being around. And I think you and I talked about this, and I was banging this drum last year, and I didn't like going. I felt like Tennessee tried to moneyball strong side defensive end last year, where they tried to replace Tyler Barron in the aggregate. And I didn't agree with it at the time, because I think it was like 16, 17 sacks total between Barron and Pierce in 23. Barron did a lot of that just nasty work on the defensive line and was a physical dude who made life easier for Pierce on the opposite side. And I think Bailey's solid. He graded lower than Jason Jenkins and Tyree West for PFF on rushing the passer last year. That's not his skill set. Like, he's not a great pass rusher. I think you saw flashes of Tyree West. Could maybe be that guy eventually. But I thought it was kind of like a flex, a little bit of like, we have enough guys here, and we can rotate these guys. And if we rotate these 3, if they give us just a little bit of what Tyler Barron had as a whole, we can match that same production. And I think that's why they rush 4 a lot. And like in the Georgia-Ohio State game in particular, it felt like that's where you really miss somebody like that on the opposite side of Pierce. And I just don't think Tennessee now, with Pierce gone, Jordan Ross has to be ready. Like you saw, Pierce made a big jump in year 2. I think Ross has all the talent in the world to be another big-time star Leo for Tennessee. But I think you're going in with Josephs, who's never been a high sack guy at Tennessee to this point. Good player, played well last year. I don't think you're going to be able to get away with having Joseph's on one side, maybe Caleb Herring a lot of snaps behind him until Ross is ready. And then on the other side, you're going with Dominic Bailey for a lot of snaps, and we'll see who's behind him. Maybe Tyree West. Hopefully Tyree West. I think you're going to need more juice there. Like, I think you talked about, like, it seems like they're probably going to blitz more in 25 than they did this previous year. But I just think they need more juice on the defensive line. And I think Dominic Bailey sliding in maybe for those 20 to 25 snaps might be the answer, right? Like, that could be the way around it, because I don't think you can survive. And it sounds a little hyperbolic, but I just mean in terms of, like, if you want to have one of the elite defensive lines in the sport this year, I don't think Bailey and Josephs can be your leaders in snaps at those two spots. Is that fair, or is it? I don't know.
Well, I think Josephs is a better pass rusher than probably given credit for.
Yeah.
He's got to finish better. There's no question about that. I'm curious to see if Ross is the guy on the other side when they go rabbits.
Huh.
Okay, when they slide Bailey inside, or Bailey comes off the field and they're playing two true tackles, and they play Jordan Ross in pass rush situations. There is he kind of the rabbits guy. I will say this about Tyler Barron. I was actually on a New York Giants radio show podcast thing. They want to talk about draft stock and draft prospects, so we were kind of running through everybody in the draft for Tennessee, and we got to James Pierce, and I made this statement. I said, James Pierce had a solid year this year, not a great year. He had a solid year. And they were like, well, why were his numbers down? I said, well, one reason his numbers down was Tyler Barron wasn't on the other side. You go back and look, and listen, guys leave, they chase money. Tyler Barron obviously was chasing money because he went to Ole Miss, he went to Louisville, then he ended up at Miami. I would contend that Tyler Barron missed James Pierce didn't help his stock as much this year, and James Pierce didn't have Tyler Barron, which probably didn't help his stock from where he was coming out of the previous year. You go back and look at the tape, a lot of that inside work and some of that rabbit stuff where they slid Barron inside, he forced the quarterback to move. A lot of times he forced him towards James Pierce's lap. Sometimes Pierce forced the guy to step up, and he stepped into Tyler Barron's lap. They played off each other very well. And I think Tennessee does have to find somebody to play off Josephs on that side. Is that Jordan Ross? Is that Tyree West? What exactly does that look like? We'll see. And I think they'll probably be a little more aggressive. I think we have one of the best front fours in football, and we're going to play straight up. We got good corners. We're going to play it straight up. And it worked, for the most part, except Georgia. It didn't work on third down against Georgia. And it obviously, if you saw Pro Day at Ohio State, we'd probably understand why that game ended the way that game ended. That was like the who's who of the NFL watching a Pro Day. And some of Ohio State's best players aren't eligible for Pro Day at this point in time. So that's a pretty good football team. But I do think Tennessee will be a little more aggressive in situations with a pass rush this year than they were last year, because I think they were a little bit too. We'll get there with our 4. We'll get there with 4. We're going to run some games and play and get there with 4. I think you'll see them bring some more linebackers, some more. We didn't see a lot of star blitzes. We didn't see a lot of safety blitzes. I think you'll see a little more aggressiveness out of Tim Banks this year with what he has to work with,
especially with Boo in year 2. Like, you imagine he's going to be, he's going to be great off the edge. Like, he should help in that regard, especially on passing downs.
And some of that's a read, and I think the thing with Boo last year, and I'll give Tennessee credit because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You got younger players, so how do you avoid being sloppy? Don't overload them. Don't tie up their feet with their mind. Don't put too much on their plate. So maybe you do simplify some stuff, right? And say, instead of telling Boo, okay, if the formation shifts to this, and this guy's over here, and this guy's doing this, and you read the backs here, and you're doing this, all of a sudden that means you're coming, as opposed to travel with the guy in motion and covering.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Sometimes for when you're playing youth, you got to simplify things a little bit, and I think Tennessee built with Boo as the season went along, but I don't think he was running the full arsenal of the star position all season long. I think you'll see him be much more multifaceted at that position this season as opposed to just being a coverage guy.
I just think they have a lot of this defense. I think is gonna be fine by and large. I'm pretty bullish on the defense. I think there's gonna be more juice. I think we talked about this too. Just like I think this is the best linebacker room they've ever had in the hype era. I think they have just so much talent, and there's some iron and sharpens iron situation there. Where I mean, Jordan Burns was kind of forgotten about, but I think he's gonna be a player. I mean, you have Edwin Spillman, who clearly would have played if he's not hurt, didn't get hurt. Like there's a lot of juice there with Edwin Spillman, and T-Lander has been a good story for Tennessee, especially on early downs and against the run. Aaron Carter in year 3. I just think it's just a surplus if you get anything out of Jaden Harmon or Pilati or Gass as true freshmen. I just think they're loaded there. I think they'll be fine at corner, whatever it is. I also just think at safety, there's a chance where it's like, whether it's Idris Farouk. I mean, we've seen John Slaughter run with the ones a little bit. Like, I know you and I talked about John Slaughter. It feels like he's been here for 7 years. John Slaughter has been theoretically intriguing at the safety spot for 3 or 4 years now, it feels like. But he could run with the ones. Like, he could end up taking that job next to Turrentine. I don't know. I just think they're going to be really solid. And it's just a testament when you look at the roster in 2021 to now. And I'm like, man, there's some questions they have to have answered here, but there's still just a lot of talent on this side of the ball.
That's the difference. You know, there may be as many questions about this team going into this year as heck, maybe there was Josh's first year, you know, but the difference is the answers are better possible answers. You know, the first year answers were like, this is not good.
Yeah.
You know, now your answers are better because your talent's a lot better. Your roster's a lot better. Yeah, you've got questions and you've got a lot of questions, but I think you're always going to have questions. I mean, I think that's the world we live in now. What you want to do is you want to have your choices for answers to be more capable bodies than they have been. And that's the case at Tennessee. That's the difference. The questions may be as plentiful as they were Josh Heupel's first couple of years, but the answers to the questions are much better options than they were those first couple of years.
Do you think this time, we circle back next year, Brent, and we look at the impact of Seth Littrell, Alan Williams, and John, how do you pronounce his last name? The new special teams veteran coach. We're not calling him an analyst, but he's like the veteran. Like, I don't even know what to call him. Above.
I know you're talking about John. I don't.
Bonamigo? I don't know. I'm not sure. Apologies.
I'm not going to mess up his name on this podcast at night.
But that's fair.
It's like Badamingo or something like that. But you know, it's not Buttafuoco, so don't get
it's not that. I do know that.
Not that.
But do you think it will end up being kind of an under the radar? Because I Seth Littrell's flying all over the place. I saw Alan Williams do it. Like, it feels like they got some real assets that I think fans might overlook in terms of like, these aren't the splashiest, or it's easy to overlook in the dull season, but you have a defensive coordinator in Alan Williams at the NFL level, who could only help things, have an already veteran staff on that side of the ball. You have a young special teams coach taking over, but I mean, this guy has all kinds of great experience, NFL experience, where he will help ease the transition, because you're going to need great special teams again from Ross and Max Gilbert to continue progressing and company. And then Littrell, of just like having someone in that room, fans have wanted a goalish type back. He doesn't seem like from the outside as happy-go-lucky as the rest of the young staff is, just from the outside looking in. And someone who, because of his relationship in years back with Heupel and playing on that national title team together, will tell him, be like, hey, this is not like, have you thought about fixing this? Like, someone who is just going to be in the foxhole, but not be afraid. And we're not saying that people were afraid before. It's just, you're going to get some real honest, like brutal honesty from Littrell potentially, right?
I mean, Seth Littrell sat in the big chair. I mean, he's in the big chair as a head coach, so he sees what Josh Heupel's seeing from a big picture standpoint. Now, he was at North Texas, and okay, maybe it's not that, but you're still making critical decisions. Like, okay, what do we do here in this situation? Well, let's think about what it means for the defense. You know what I mean? Let's get out of this total offensive mentality all the time, and let's make sure. And Josh Heupel did a much better job of that last year, other than going for it from his own 20 against Florida. I mean, he played field position football a little better, and you saw some growth in that way. I think this is a smart move this offseason by Josh Heupel. And everybody wants to put a qualifier on it. Like, what does it mean? Does it mean one more win or two? I don't know what it means from that standpoint. But when you have openings like that and you have opportunities, you have two choices as a coach, right? Like, am I going to get somebody who's just going to follow in line with me and is just going to learn underneath me and is, I don't want to say yes man, but they're not going to really, I mean, they're just trying to get started in coaching and really grow there? Or do I go and use those for some real help, like a real analyst? And these guys are real on the field coaching analysts. I mean, Alan Williams when you talk about self-scouting, I mean, Tim Banks is going to do his own self-scout, but he's got in his mind, this is what we do, and this is what we should be doing, and this is who we are, this is our identity. Well, here's a guy who's been an NFL defensive coordinator at 3 stops that can come in and go, Coach, what if you played it this way?
Mm-hmm.
What if you think about this? What if we looked at it like that? Here's something that we did when we played against this type of offense. Like that, that Rolodex or that library, card catalog of information, I think is so valuable. I mean, I do. I think it's a great move by Josh Heupel. No offense to the young guys. I'm not saying young analysts can't be helped, and you got to have a mix there. But man, I mean, Tim Banks obviously has a ton of confidence and belief in Alan Williams. Tim Banks is walking around the practice field all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, all over the place. I mean, he's out there watching the defensive line, and he's watching the linebackers. Up until this year, he had always been only with the safeties during individual period. He didn't know what the defensive linemen were doing in individuals. He wasn't going over there and giving his own evaluation or his own thought or taking notes about, you know what, we need to get more out of this guy, or here's something I need to talk to Rodney Garner or Chop about with, maybe we can maximize time better, or this guy might be better to suit this, or here's something I picked out. I wonder if they've thought about that. I mean, I'm at practice on Thursday, and you got Willie Martinez, who's got nickel and he's got the nickels and a safety, or maybe nickels and both safeties. Alan Williams has got the right side corners, and the other analyst is got the left side corners. I mean, and then there's Tim Banks in the middle of the safety drill with Willie Martinez. You got 4 DB coaches working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're dividing that group up. Now, all of a sudden, 3 guys are getting the attention of one coach the entire time. Instead of sitting there and there's, hey, this guy gets a rep. I mean, it just creates better development of your football team. And I think those things are important. So I think, it's a good move for Tennessee. I really do. I like what Josh Heupel's done with those roles this offseason.
Does your gut indicate, I mean, this is kind of hard to extrapolate out, but I mean, because when Littrell first came to Oklahoma, he started as an analyst, and then when Jeff Levy got the Mississippi State job, he moved up to OC last year. Do you think this is a potential, learns the personnel, or you don't think he wants to be a co-OC with them?
I don't know. I don't know what he wants to do there. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I think that,
because he's still really young. I think he's 43 or something.
Yeah, I think he's looking to get the bad taste out of his mouth from the situation he was at Oklahoma. Kind of do his own self-scout of himself. Like, what did we do with the quarterback situation last year? Like, let me learn some things here. I think where Seth Littrell helps the most is what you said earlier. I mean, that's Josh Heupel's former roommate who was a fullback. Well, what do you think their mentality is?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, how many times you think he probably just tore into Josh Heupel about not cleaning something up in his room, or you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
I think his voice and Josh Heupel's willingness to be open-minded to him because of their relationship as teammates, and the fact that he has the experience he has as a head coach, I think is good for Josh Heupel. And I think Seth's personality is probably a little more boot in your rear end.
Yeah.
A little more harsh. and they probably need that on offense to a degree. I mean, he's got to be careful, and he has been. He's not stepping over, Joey Halsley's. Like, he's not grabbing, a headset and trying to call plays. But he's taking a lot of notes, and looking at things and saying, hey, we got to be harder on guys here. We got to be more stern about this. I mean, one of the things I would love to ask him is like, what's your evaluation of him with the penalties? Like, I mean, this is one of the most penalized teams. How do you fix that? You're a head coach. I mean, are they being hard enough on them in the practice field when they make a mistake and get a penalty? Or is it, okay, we noted they had a penalty, we'll move on to the next deal? Like, how do you address those types of things? I think those are some of the stuff that you're going to see from Seth Littrell more than just straight X's and O's of coming in going, hey, we're going to do this or you need to do that. I think it's more about, just kind of how you grow and develop your entire offense and the mentality you have on that side of the ball.
Before we end with a quick Kim Caldwell Lady Vols question for you, Brent. The news broke by Austin Price, Volquest, about Miles Kitselman. We talked about it at the top. 12 personnel was a heavy part of what Heupel was doing last year. Now with him gone for months, like it's still like practice, installs, what they're doing with scrimmages, everything else. Like, you've got two talented blue chippers, true freshmen in Brame and Van Dorselaer. Cole Harrison, we'll see where he's at. I mean, he was banged up last year. You definitely need him healthy. Now, Ethan Davis has played very sparingly for Tennessee at this point. Holden Stay's gone to the portal. You don't have another vet. Like, this was one of those combo gut punches to me, because he's also been behind the scenes. Everyone, if you ask, like, who do you think the leader is of this offense, Miles Kitselman's name comes up, and you're like, okay, so the leader is now going to be sidelined here for a little bit as you're breaking in a new center. Like, it's a big offseason for Nico and everything else. I mean, how much does the installs change, do you think? Because 12 personnel is a big part of it. And like, I imagine Miles Kitselman was going to be a part of how they just game plan and how they revolve this offense. And as a safety blanket for Nico, with so much youth behind Kitselman, I don't know. Like, that's a lot to put on Ethan Davis here. I mean, hey, he's a blue chipper. He's a guy like, hey, it's your time. This is year 3. It's time to sink or swim. But I don't know. How much do you think this injury potentially changes wrinkles and what Tennessee might have had in store for the tight end position?
Well, it depends on when you think he's going to be back. I mean,
Yeah.
is he going to be back week 2, week 1, week 8? Like, when do you think?
But even if he's back, he's gone, right? Like, he can't practice for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he can't practice, but I mean, you can get on the board and do some install stuff. I mean, I'm not saying bubble wrap him, but he was probably going to be limited a lot the rest of spring from that standpoint, and let the young guys go.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you're suddenly now, okay, well, we don't have him this summer, so we can't work on the things we were going to work on with our tight ends. I mean, Cole Harrison didn't practice, but he was in meetings every day learning 12 personnel on the board. They put in 12 personnel last year in the summer, and it's not like they were practicing when they really put it in, right? It's not like Alec Abelin, hey, go boys, go put on your pads and let's go out here and play. I mean, it's not what you do in the summer, because you can't. So I think you can still install some of that stuff. And again, it's already been installed, so it's not like it's totally sort of brand new like it was a year ago. So I don't think it negates all of that. I think what it means is, what can you run this early in the season, because when do you get him back? I think that the bigger question is, you've got all this stuff in. It doesn't prevent you from putting it in, but can you execute without him when it comes time to play? I mean, because it's one thing to know what to do. It's another thing to be able to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will be the question based on when Miles Kitselman is back. Like, look, Ethan Davis, you've said all the right things. All the right things. Great interview. I mean, says all of the right deal. Go back and listen to his interview this time last year. Said all the right things. It's time to go do it. I mean, he's got to go execute and go play better. Quit talking about it all, and quit saying all the right things, and go be productive. Be more consistent day in and day out on the practice field to earn the trust to be able to play a whole bunch of snaps. Because you're the vet now. I mean, Miles is going to be in the room. He's going to be a part of it. But if he's not ready out of the get-go in fall camp and week one, you're the guy. I mean, you're going home to Georgia to take on Syracuse. You're the man. Like, you got to go play it that way. It's time for him to take a big step.
I like it. Let's do a rapid fire real quick here.
Okay.
This is like an AP percentage here.
I don't like those, but we'll do rapid fire.
We'll do rapid fire.
Okay.
Starting safety across from Turrentine going into fall camp will be who?
If he's healthy, Christian Charles.
Interesting. It's big.
Experience knows what to do.
But
Farouk will split time with him. I mean, he's going to. Farouk's
not Slaughter.
Not right now. Would not be right now. Wouldn't say that, but wouldn't rule him out. But right now, I think from an experience standpoint, they probably roll Christian Charles if he's healthy.
Linebacker, 2 deep.
Carter and T-Lander and Spillman and Burns. Because
do you lose T-Lander if you go to Spillman too early?
Nah, I mean, you're going to play him enough. I mean, you're going to play him on a regular. They wrote. I tell you what, of all the positions on the field since Josh Heupel's been here, go back to Brian Jean-Marie, and even William Inge. Man, they've done a heck of a job rotating guys and getting guys involved. I mean, look how much T-Lander played his freshman year. I mean, Arian Carter's on the field in critical situations. Edwin Spillman's coming off like 7 weeks missed, and he's playing in the second quarter against Vanderbilt when you're behind
with the club.
Yeah, I mean, they're not afraid to put those guys out there into situations. And I put Burns in there because, when you look at those young linebackers, they're not practicing right now because of high school injuries that they're recovering from, cleanup procedures and that type of thing. So he should be ahead of them. So that would be that's where I'd go with the 2 deep right now.
Strong side defensive end.
Don Bailey's going to be the starter. And then when you go Rabbits, I think they would love for Jordan Ross to be that guy. Opposite, where's Tyree West? I think he's got to be more consistent, not freelance as much. I want to see Weathersby healthy to see what Weathersby can do. I'm fascinated to see where he's at physically. Another year removed from the hip. Can he stay healthy? Kind of go from there. I'm really interested to hear what Jordan Ross does the back half of spring here now that he's starting to get turned loose more and more. It's a shame Marion Dye at 260 pounds is not getting to go through spring. There's another shoulder from high school that you're dealing with. Very common thing that a lot of high school kids are dealing with shoulder stuff that they're waiting to get fixed when they come to college. They just brace it up and play in high school. And it's setting them back, even as midterm guys. I mean, you got 3 freshmen with those 2 linebackers and Dye who are not going through spring because of high school shoulder injuries.
Interesting. Center.
I'm gonna go Satterwhite right now, and until I get proven otherwise, I'm gonna go William Satterwhite.
More starts at the 3rd receiver spot: Brazzell or Travis Smith Jr.
Brazzell, I think, right now.
I was talking to Jack Foster about this earlier. I think Smith's gonna get more starts. I don't think Brazzell's gonna settle. It's a good bet to settle in at the.
I had an interesting conversation with Chris Brazzell earlier this week, talking about how much more comfortable he feels and how he really never felt comfortable a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly when they put more people on the field. Like routes versus air was fine. One-on-ones was fine. Then you started adding things where you had to start to do all the choice read stuff. He wasn't real comfortable. So does he grasp it better? And can Travis Smith grasp it out of the gate? We'll find out. Those receivers are going to get a good lesson on Monday, those young receivers. When Kelsey Pope's not out there whispering in their ear what to do, he's over on the side and it's going really fast and you got to figure it out and go from there. Which one of those guys figures it out? Here's the other thing too. We've talked about a newcomer receiver every year and what's been the impact. Other than Javante Payton running a 9 route,
a
little bit of Thornton running a route, his deep route his first year. Those guys have kind of taken to year 2 to kind of get settled in and really get a grasp of things.
That's why I just don't understand. Like, you don't need to take a receiver. Like, they're not going to be an impact. Like, if you're trying to get a veteran receiver right now, like
in January you got a better chance. In late April, 1st of May, I think it's hard to get them ready to play. Yeah, I really do. Now, Brew got here. I mean, Brew got here late.
True.
And he was okay in 22. I mean, 22 was his first year. I mean, he did some things. It was a little bit limited, but I mean, he did some things at LSU. Obviously, had the big catch against Alabama, but he came
Big
on.
catch against Florida too, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, he had a touchdown catch against Penn State or Pittsburgh. Excuse me.
That's right.
I know it was
Pittsburgh. I just blacked out with the 27th target to Cedric Tillman.
But he caught a deep ball in that game that was a touchdown. That was important. Yeah. So he did some things. So you could maybe take a veteran, that way and maybe get something out of him. But yeah, it'd be a risk for sure.
It also might end up being a blessing in disguise, Brent, because if Travis Smith does end up, because I just think he has a different kind of frame and skill set than what Tennessee's had. He's like a blue chip version of Cedric Tillman coming out of high school to me, where he's just somebody that they've missed. And like they haven't had that kind of guy. And it's like you said, asking a lot of a freshman, but maybe Brazzell is better off just being the fourth guy. Like he just gets snaps and like you go with it. Smith has to win it outright, but like learning on the fly, like
so you're saying he's Ramel Keaton.
Yes. Like, what if Brazzell is better off being Ramel Keaton?
Better as the 4 sub guy than being the focal point. Maybe. We'll see.
And I think that might end up being the best case. Like, because Tennessee, I was talking to AP about this last week. Like, the looming Jake Merklinger versus George McIntyre versus Faison Brandon battle next year. If things go right at receiver this year, that could be gigantic when you're breaking in a new quarterback in 26. Because if you have 3 studs that just burst onto the scene and you like have an Ohio State type situation with 3 blue chip guys who flash in different ways, that's a really good position for a new starting quarterback to be walking into, especially with Sanders a year older, William Satterwhite potentially a year older. Like, you look all around and suddenly that offense that people are really worried about, it's a whole lot more exciting, where you're like, oh, the quarterback's just the plug and play of all these exciting young guys who grew the previous year. I think that is something I have my eye on. I'm just like, man, if you just let Travis Smith work it out and let Brazzell be your Ramel Keaton this year, man, that could pay dividends for 26 for whoever's coming in after him, because it might be a true freshman in Faison.
Or let Brazzell be the guy and work Smith in as you go. I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see Travis Smith play, whether he's becomes, quote, the guy and is the starting guy there or not. I think you're going to see him play on a regular basis. I don't think this is going to be like it was in 21, where they played 3 wide receivers and say, "Hey, we're done. We're home with our 3, and that's what we do." And that's not what they wanted to do in 21. But after the Florida game, that's what Alex Golis just came in and said, "This is what we're doing. These are the only 3 we can trust. These are the only 3 we're going to play." And they were fortunate to get through from a health standpoint with that. They beat those guys up pretty good, but that was like, this is our only option. We can't play those other guys. So we'll see. Them being here at midterm, I think helps a great deal. And we'll see how much they develop between now and August and where they are from a help standpoint. Again, I think you have to play young people. When you make a financial investment to get the guys here out of the high school ranks, you can't sit around and wait. They can't be clipboard holders. You got to play those guys. You got to force them in, and you got to keep building them that way. It's what they did with Boo Carter last year. It's what they've done at linebacker. You have to play young players. It's just what you have to do. And if you have to simplify it a little bit, simplify it. But you got to get those guys on the field, because that's where your investment's at.
Final one. We learned that Darrell Sims is not the rotation guy that Jerry Mack was this year.
We don't know that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, your prediction. What do you think? Do you think he gets
prediction? I think I do think he rotates more than he did this past year. If Bishop stays healthy and Lewis stays healthy. Remember this about Peyton Lewis a year ago. The guy's first football came in August. He missed all of winter, spring, and summer recovering from the injury standpoint. So I think you're going to be a little more confident there. I don't know that while I'm bullish on Bishop and I like Peyton Lewis, I don't know that either one of them are the bell cow at this point where Dylan Sampson was. So I think you're going to rotate. The question is there a third guy? Where does Stars Thomas factor in? Where do you factor in with DeJuan Morris? Is there a third guy that really factors into that and makes that a really unique rotation? We'll find out, what he thinks of those guys. But I think you're going to see a little more frequent rotation, at least between 2, than what you saw last year. Last year, it was like, all right, third series, we're going to rotate a guy. and then we may not rotate the rest of the game. You know, if Dylan Sampson's healthy, I don't think that'll be the case this year.
Final thing, you've been writing and covering the Lady Vols here a lot. That they beat Ohio State, first home loss for Ohio State, and they're building this year. They're in the Sweet 16 along with the men's team. The most impressive part of year one in Kim Caldwell's tenure for you, Brent Hubbs, is what?
That she got a group to buy in to her system, to play the way that they did, the way that they have, and doing it while she was pregnant and having a child and recovering from that. I mean, that to do all of that in 1 year and to get to this point. Oh, and by the way, you were really not very good the last 2 weeks. And so you have 13 days off to fix it and go into tournament play. And you go in and play your 2 best games that you've played arguably in 6 weeks. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about what she's been able to do and what they've gotten done. They obviously got some good players, in the portal. I mean, Spearman's just been a terrific asset. Cooper's played well. But to get what she's gotten out of Darby and Puckett, who probably don't fit this system that, that exactly like you would look for somebody to do, to get that buy-in that they've had with them, and for them not to be checked out to go to spring break, like they were ready to go reset and go play again. There's quite a bit of competitiveness in that program. And again, to do it while I think the pregnancy part, she'll never talk about it. Kim Caldwell won't. I don't think she'll ever dive in it because that's not her. It's not about me. I think that was a heck of a lot harder than anybody on the outside ever will know. And of course, I'm never going to know because I'm never going to be pregnant. You're never going to be pregnant. So we don't understand all that. But just the fatigue you go through, you're trying to energize, you're trying to create energy in your program. You're having a hard time doing that because you're 7, 8, 9 months pregnant. Then I think she had visions of having a child on Monday and coaching at Texas. And that's not realistic. And I think the recovery post delivery to get back to where she wanted to be, energy, where she could go on the practice floor the way she wanted to and coach her team the way she wanted to, took longer than she thought. And this team handled all of that. They handled it well. They were competitive against everybody with the exception of Kentucky. Now, they blew a game at home against Georgia, which was an ugly loss. They did not play well against Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament. But, I mean, at Baton Rouge, there was nothing wrong with what they did in that game. They gave a game away at Vanderbilt. They had a chance to beat LSU at home, to beat Oklahoma at home. They beat Connecticut at home. They were highly competitive for a team that you wondered if they would make the tournament. They were really competitive with the exception of the last week of the regular season where they were bad at Kentucky and they were just horrific at home on senior day against Georgia.
I'm very curious to see. They're just playing with house money right now.
Yeah. At this point, it's, hey, let's go let it all hang out. And all the pressure's on Texas.
Yes.
All the pressure's on Texas. And for her to get this team to the Sweet 16 in year one, nobody can come back and say, well, she didn't do as well as Kelly Harper did. And what do they do? She's established herself that, hey, this thing's going to work when it all comes together and all of her parts and pieces are there. This thing makes sense. It looks like a really good investment for Danny White. It's created some excitement and some energy and publicity for them that the program is needing. Ticket sales are up. At this point, everything's house money for them. They've achieved, or in some cases overachieved, what most people thought they were going to do in year one. Now the question is, how does that system work in year two? Does it all come together the way it's supposed to in year two, or does everybody figure you out? Does everybody have a better answer for you in year two? There's always tweaking and adjustments. So that'll be fun to see from a year from now. But as for Saturday, total house money in Birmingham.
And how do you play all these new blue chip freshmen? It feels like forever ago she landed all those 5 stars, I
think she's going to make noise in the portal. I think they're going to they'll bring in 2 to 4 players out of the portal, which will create some real competition, and we'll see how those. Again, I think you're always going to have some turnover. We'll see how those young freshmen handle it, and again, she's going to play a lot of bodies anyway. So, but I think she is going to have to get her some help in the portal. They obviously need a veteran post player. They're going to need a veteran point guard because you don't want it to be Boyd and just a freshman at the point. You need somebody with some experience to calm you there. And you need a shooter on the perimeter, probably, maybe somebody who can shoot and drive it a little bit because of what you're losing in Jewel Spear and Darby. I mean, you're living on the three, obviously. You better get some better shooters that can shoot some threes. And then now the freshman you think can do that, but you need a little veteran person out there on the perimeter too.
Brent Hubbs, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Volquest.com this week?
Tons of stuff. I mean, we have our regular podcast stuff all week long on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we'll have plenty of spring coverage. We got coverage from Sweet 16 for both basketball teams. You got the baseball team playing at South Carolina. It's crossover season, man. You got lots and lots of things going on. And you don't really get centered in and focused on any one thing right now. You're kind of involved in all of it in varying degrees. And it's fun because everybody's winning right now. It keeps it really fun right now. And should be interesting to see what we're talking about basketball on Monday. Is it over? Is somebody left? What's the feeling on basketball come Monday for both teams? It's house money for the Lady Vols. It would certainly be an upset for them to continue to be playing. On the men's side of things, is it a disappointment from the Kentucky game, or is it, hey, you're in the Elite Eight and, man, you ran up against a really good team, or do you break through and get to the Final Four? Be a fascinating weekend of basketball.
And then there's me, who's going to be like waiting for going to the general's quarters to see who shined and who didn't in Monday's spring football scrimmage for Tennessee. Yeah,
that'd be Monday night. We'll have coverage. Yeah. Josh and I will be talking about that Monday night. We'll have some notes from that deal on Monday night as well.
You just want to forward those over, Brent, that just to make it easier on my end, just so I'll be ready for it on Monday night.
Start looking for those around 9:30 Monday night.
Okay. Around the Monday night chat.
No, it's a Monday night scrimmage, so I don't know that we'll do a chat because we're not going to get out of the stadium after Josh.
Breaking news on this podcast. I need to buy sound effects. No Monday night chat.
We may not. I don't know. We may not get back away from football coverage to get into the chat at 10 o'clock. We'll just have to see. We'll explore all those options. We're fluid and flexible at this point in time.
I'm a lunatic. I'm so ready for it. I really just miss football, Brent. I'm ready for it to be back. I want to see how the receivers play. I want to see what this defense looks like. I want to see what Nico looks like in year 3. I want to see Satterwhite at center. I don't know. I'm ready for Syracuse, man. And we got a long way to go.
Well, but that's the fun part is the thing, again, like we said earlier, there's a lot of questions, but you feel like they have good answers to the questions. Yeah. It's just how good are the answers going to be? They're so much better than they were, but how good are they right out of the gate here? Going to make it entertaining.
I can't wait. Brent Hubbs, always a pleasure. Go subscribe, Volquest.com today if you have not already, and we'll check back in again very soon.
All right. Thanks, Chase. Appreciate you.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.